Hello everyone. Today we'll discuss about the startups, how they challenge, how they reach success, especially their journey while getting the investment, pre-investment, post-investment. So David and Şeyhmus together with us. I'm trying to moderate. Just first, let's make a short intro of ourselves. I am Barış Özistek from Boğaziçi Ventures. And I'm also the chairman of Joy Game, which is one of the top Turkish game companies. At Boğaziçi Ventures, I'm the founding partner. We are running multiple funds, investing in early stage to late stage and publicly listed companies. But gaming is one of our focus area. As we are from game industry, we are passionate about investing in gaming at any stage. Yes, David, welcome to Turkey.
Thanks so much. Really pleased to be with everyone here. I would like to thank all Turkish people for their hospitality so far. It's been really a pleasure to come to Istanbul. My name is David Fernandez. I'm the CEO at Sandsoft Games. I've been working in the games industry for more than 20 years now. So it's been a while, I presume. I've been working in different companies before. I used to work in THQ, Digital Chocolate, Nokia, or King before joining that venture. And the Sandsoft Games is a mobile first game developer and publisher based in Saudi Arabia.
Great. Şeyhmus?
Hey everyone, I am Şeyhmus. I am the CEO of MegaFortuna. I am in the ecosystem almost for 10 years. My journey started with user acquisition and growth. Now we are developing apps and mobile games for entertainment categories. Now we will discuss.
So, Şeyhmus, shall we start with you? Let's hear first your journey, because as far as I know, MegaFortuna is your third startup. By the way, 2 success stories as far as I know. So let's hear your success stories and how it happened and how you shifted to MegaFortuna.
Sure. So my journey started in 2010 as an agency guy. In that time, actually, we helped many different mobile games and apps. We founded a growth tower, San Francisco-based an agency, mobile growth agency. In that time, actually, as a consultants, we are providing some services in ASO, paid acquisition, organic growth, data, etc. So we saw a very effective point in user acquisition. You know, in that time, scaling is really hard. You need to deploy a huge budget for a few ad networks, and as a startup, you need to negotiate with those ad networks. So the idea of the App Samurai came our mind, and we start to develop a self-service user acquisition platform that connected with different ad networks. In that time, I guess 2016, the journey started with very good in terms of clients, etc. We worked with Jet.com. We had many big names in gaming and non-gaming side. So we also funded well with Techstars, 500 startups, and in Turkey, 212 and other reputable VCs. Then I see another opportunities in gaming. So I jumped and I founded a Pow Games with my co-founder, and we focus on hybrid casual mobile games. So in that time, I guess 2021, the biggest genre was, of course, hyper casual, but we see a very good opportunities in hybrid genre. We developed 2 titles in the beginning of the launch and scale. It was just 9 months, and we sold those 2 titles to Matching Games, our partner. Then now we are focused on a bigger category, entertainment category. We just, we don't just develop mobile games, we also develop apps as well. And in MegaFortuna, we negotiate with many VCs in order to, show them a big volume in a wider category. What I mean, there is a many opportunities in different genres in mobile gaming, but as a company, we are focusing on a portfolio game. So now we have 15 different products. We will have maybe more than 20 products, and we will create a synergy between those products in terms of acquisition and monetization. And we closed $2.3 million from APE Ventures in Turkish Albaraka Bank and another reputable corporate VC, Western Ventures. Now we are focusing on new products.
Yeah, congratulations for your new fundraising. So you had many experience with the investors, VCs in the past. From that experience, I am shifting to another kind of a startup, very well-funded startup from Saudi Arabia. So I'd like to hear, we all like to hear your journey.
Sure, perfect. So before I start, I would like to maybe make a poll to the audience. Who from the audience is working on a startup? Can you raise your hand, please? Okay, a few people here. Who in the audience would like to start a new company? Okay. And who in the audience is an investor? Okay.
Let me rise.
Okay, perfect. Well, thanks so much. Presume maybe we'll touch base on this later, but one of the important things about game creation is to focus on your audience, right? And we'll talk about this maybe later. But let me share a bit about, who is Sandsoft and why it's relevant in the context of this conversation today. So definitely we are a startup, but maybe we are different than other ones because we are part of a big corporation. So Sandsoft was born as part of an effort on a large corporation to diversify their business operations. And out of these diversification efforts, Sandsoft was born. So that comes, I presume, with plenty of opportunities, but similarly plenty of challenges, in the sense that definitely you don't need to worry about funding. From that perspective, that's covered. Financial, liquidity is there. But similarly, depending on the background of your company, you need to keep educating, your in this case, owners, your board, right? In our case, our company, our corporation, was focused on traditional businesses, not tech-related. So the company or the group that is owning the company started 40 years ago doing cloth manufacturing, so nothing to do with games. And they diversified a bit in the early 90s, but they did something which is also technology-driven, which is real estate development, right? So not really high-tech businesses. So from that perspective, I feel that our journey is slightly different. We were really privileged to have an opportunity to create a games company, but we need to keep iterating the education we have for our board. Similarly, I presume that any startup company, and I can translate this from games to any other kind of company that is starting or want to start a new venture, they usually start from a product, from a game, right? That was something that in our case didn't exist. So we were born as part of a consultancy group. Think about the Bain's, about the McKinsey's, about the Boston consulting groups, telling our corporation, hey guys, we think you should be doing something in games because it's really exciting, and you know what? That's going to help the country to develop their vision to Saudi 2030, right? So I presume in our case, we didn't have a proper team to develop that game or that product that you have in mind. So presume that we'll touch base a little more on the conversation on some of these challenges, but I presume in our case is different perspective. So trying to incubate an idea on a large corporation, in our case 16,000 people, where you are the new kid in the block.
So I have a couple of questions at that point, because we have also seen similar cases in Turkey. So some corporates, of course, gaming is some juicy industry, very big industry, everyone wants to enter, and not everyone, but most of the people think it's easy to earn money. That's why many corporates, large corporates, yeah, welcome, Burak. Hello.
But I thought we have only 5 minutes more, I guess. No?
We started at 4:30, no problem, just join. So, not many, but several companies, corporates in Turkey also entered the gaming industry, but as far as I see, most of them failed. So can you give some experience, some knowledge sharing, what should be done, what should not be done, or what corporates should expect when they enter in such an area?
Sure. I presume that if you are a large corporation that have your main assets, your main activity, and you think games industry is something you would like to work on and untap some potential opportunities, presume the first thing you need to know that this is a long journey. That's not that kind of small investment you do on 1 year, and then after 1 year, you actually have a return on investment. Presume from that perspective, you need to think about game development as an R&D. So it's definitely product-driven. It's definitely activity where success is not guaranteed. I try to compare these, and that has helped me a lot to educate my board, which is a good parallelism, I think. When you think about the pharma industry, right? When you think about the pharma industry and how new drugs, how new medicines are created, you have an idea of what kind of focus area for you would be. But then you start iterating some, I would say, call it magic formulas to understand if that actual idea that connects with the actual disease you try to heal. And that's a whole funneling exercise to you get the actual, I would say, basis of the medicine and drug you are creating. Games is not different from that. So from that perspective, it takes a lot of time to funnel these ideas to something that is tangible, to something that can drive an impact, to something that definitely can be commercialized. And I presume as well we touch base, with the gentleman in the panel as well later, but creating fun games is easy. Creating commercially successful games is really hard. And I think that's something that many people maybe underestimate, because they think, yeah, that's a kid's game, how this will be hard to make, right? That's something really easy, right? This is a puzzle game, or this is an action game. It's really hard to have, commercially successful games. And from that perspective, it's really important that you keep iterating and working on ideas that are connected together. And from that perspective, coming back to your question, I think that education is really important. You need to be understanding, what games industry is about, to make sure that you think about this as a long-term investment, not really something you put money in and you would like to exit in the next 2 or 3 years. I mean, game development, I presume all of you might be familiar by that, but maybe only, really hyper-casual games can be delivered in less than 3 months, right? And that's with some iterations and some actually tests that you need to be doing. An usual mobile free-to-play game will take not less than a year to get to market. That means if you are successful, that means you have that idea that you resonate with people, you do your market test, and then KPIs are there. If not, it will take maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 years to get to that game that you can commercialize. So resilience is really important. And I presume one of the common mistakes I have seen, but maybe not in my board to that stage, is like you need to trust your people. If you bring what are supposed to be experts in the field, and you are a corporation that doesn't know anything about games, and you bring your own people, your own team, and you don't empower them, you don't trust them, and you don't think they have the right tools to deliver their goals, why the hell you bring these people, right? Then focus on other financial investments, focus on buying, Activision stock, and you have a presumed certain investment in games, but then don't, invest in a kind of a startup in the games industry.
I fully agree. By the way, we have a fund. You can invest these stocks through our fund. Maybe I can add one point also. In traditional businesses, whatever, of course, you make an investment and you expect a return. But in traditional business, you invest to building area, equipment. So when the business fails, all the money doesn't go away. You can still cash out some part of your investment. But in gaming, as you said, after 1 year, 2 years, when you shut it down, everything goes away. So you should be ready for that. It's a different mindset.
That brings me to maybe a conversation I had with my board many times, which is about which are the assets of a games company, right? What can you sell if things go badly, right? And actually the assets you have, assuming you are in a startup, is just your people, is your team. That's the main asset you have in the company. So making sure you can retain that people, making sure that they are delivering, on their actual goals, that's the most important thing you can do in your company. Then eventually you may have a game, and that game will be an IP that you can have, and you can definitely, get a proper, let's say, value from that IP, commercial value, I mean, right? And then hopefully you build a game in a way that is scalable from technology perspective, and you may have some engine, platform, tools that you can deliver. But everything starts with one single asset, which is your people.
I fully agree. So Burak, welcome. So let's hear who you are very shortly, and what's your company, Singingiant, right?
Singingiant, yes.
Okay, what's Singingiant doing?
We have founded like 2 years ago. We're making a tactical FPS called Contain. It also has some ACP elements inside the game. We're also making another game, a boomer shooter called Revenge of the Mage, but it is still on working. But we're about to release Contain. I don't want to give any time about that. You know, it always happens. We have some maybe bugs and other stuff, but now we're developing 2 PC games, especially. And as you're saying, working as a team is the biggest challenge we are having right now.
What do you think about PC? Because today I got that questions many times. The PC, mobile PC is rising. Is it rising? What is the opportunity? So what do you think as you are developing 2 PC games?
Well, PC has always been there. Mobile was on the rising. I think of a PC games like what do you say it in English? It's an uçak gemisi. We say it in Turkish.
Yeah, aircraft.
It's an aircraft carrier. It joins very late to the battle, but when it comes, and it is there. And if you have a good product, it sells. But as you have mentioned, it's a very long-term development, a long-term investment. So there are lots of different and hard steps to overcome. Find a good investor, find good people to develop the game. And at the end, of course, marketing is everything. Even you have the product, if it doesn't sell, it doesn't mean anything, because as he mentioned, at the end, you have an investment and you have to get it back, especially for your investors.
So Şeyhmus, what do you think about PC? You are focused on mobile, but...
Actually, I'm not a experience in terms of the marketing growth and production, but in terms of production, what I learned from my colleagues and my friends, its development cycle is very hard. You need to have very sophisticated developers, artists, and very well-documented GDD in order to plan the pipeline. So I guess in the Turkish ecosystem, it is not easy since we don't have very skillful product managers in order to manage this product pipeline. In terms of distribution, it is another panel discussion.
Yeah, I agree. By the way, Burak, do you have investors?
We have investors, but it's not a group or anyone else. It's just a personal investor. But as you know, an investor is not the man who only gives the money. They also walk the way with you. Anytime you need help, anytime you need to take an advice, they must be there. And it is quite important. They are like an older brother to us. Of course, they are giving us money, but also they are sharing their experiences with us. And it is very important because you know how to develop, but lots of bureaucracy, lots of finance stuff. In those things, and also in legal things, you need to speak with someone who has experience. So it is quite important.
Yeah, investor put the skin in the game, put the money, then becomes the partner, so he wants to earn money.
Of course.
That's the nature of the business. So as we are talking about investment, you also have an investment vertical at Sandsoft. You are doing investment, right, David?
Yes, that's right. We are trying to understand how we can grow our company capabilities and impact through investing in third parties as well. And I presume in our context, we are not a VC. We are I think a publisher from that perspective that are interested in getting games to market, and we are using that capability to help game developers to finalize their products and to commercialize them. But maybe one thing I was just considering when both Burak and Şeyhmus were talking about was about how you can raise money, right? How you can get access to funding. And presume that I have 2 angles into it. So first, if you are new in this industry, if you are kind of an entrepreneur or a student with may have a background in other activities but not in games, it's going to be damn hard. Just to be transparent and clear with everyone. It's going to be hard. And I presume the first thing you need to convince is about your friends and family, honestly. These are the ones that are going to support in the very beginning about your passion, and assuming you have a few people that can work with you in that incredible idea you have, and that can, come to material, to something material, presume that I would suggest that you start exploring angel investors. I think it will be really hard for you to go to a VC with a team which has no experience, and maybe with just a PowerPoint. It's going to be really hard. So you may need to be bootstrapping for a bit. You need to make sure that you are assembling a core team that can deliver in that game mission that you have, and similarly make sure that you are bringing some angels that can help you in this journey by providing not just money, but also advice and connections. On the other side, if you are an experienced person in the game development industry, if you have already a core team in place, if you have built the skill set to deliver that game that is going to change the industry, or is going to change your company, and you have been working in similar games before, that's somehow easy. That's when you read the news and realize a team in, I don't know, US raised 10 million for a console PC game on a 50 million valuation. That won't happen if you don't have experience. So hopefully, in these two angles perspective, it's in a given way not easy to raise money if you are a newcomer to the business, and you need to convince, I would say, smaller tickets before you can aspire to get into the VC league. If you have experience, it's somehow easy, even though the market have been dry a little bit on the last past months. But hey, that's maybe my thoughts on this.
Great. By the way, I want to ask you one more question, because we can reach Şeyhmus, Burak every time they're in Turkey, but you don't come often. So let us give some information about Saudi Arabia. What's going on there? I know lots of developments going on.
Well, I presume that we see really Turkey as maybe the most developed games industry in the region, right? I think based on the success of some companies that had here, Big Games, Rolly Games, and a few others, you managed to create a solid games industry, which is somehow focused in mobile casual games, and that comes with some challenges, right? Presume that in this particular context, Saudi Arabia as a country want to transform the economy and also the society. So from that perspective, the country, the government, did a plan called Vision 2030 that was presented in 2016, where they would like to drive this change in the economy and this change in the society as well. They have defined certain industries around, most of them, is the knowledge economy, on how they think they can move away from petrochemicals, from energy, generally speaking, right? And try to build a more sustainable economy and similarly provide job opportunities for younger generations. When it comes to games, I think that some of you might be familiar. In September, October last year, there was an announcement which was the National Gaming and Esports Strategy, which is, as far as I understand, the only country in the world that have a proper strategy for games. And that comes definitely with certain goals, KPIs, that as a government they need to hit, but that comes as well with resourcing. And I presume it's no maybe surprise for a few of you that the country is putting together $50 billion in investments towards the gaming industry in the next 7 years to make sure they can deliver on these goals. So that's from game ecosystem, game industry perspective. Similarly, if you think about the actual market and you think about the games that you have or the games that your friends have in the market, and you think about the region, definitely Saudi Arabia is the largest or the most lucrative market, let's say. There is maybe the market with more spending power, and definitely they have a really young population that is savvy for games and entertainment, generally speaking. So both from market perspective is maybe the most interesting market in the games industry in the region, but similarly for the growth of the ecosystem is really relevant to start looking on what we are doing in the ecosystem there. And definitely Sandsoft is one of the companies in that ecosystem trying to create a proper games industry, as happening here before. Hopefully we are one of those successful that can replicate, the Big Games story here, or the Rovio story in Finland, or other stories you see around the world. And definitely with that success, we will hopefully spur the game industry in the kingdom.
So Şeyhmus, as David mentioned, we have a great ecosystem here, more than 500 game studios, game startups. For me, I say over 1,000, but official numbers say over 500. Anyways, it's big enough. So what is your advice, what is your recommendation for these startups? Of course, there are very early stage, growth stage startups, different, but what's your advice?
I guess right now we have many resources in the country, local resources. So as a co-founder in the mobile gaming ecosystem, I recommend everyone to be aware of these resources in terms of funding, in terms of technology partners, vendors, and you have many talent in Turkey. So I guess it is better to start local. Right now, it is a very good idea. Since I'm not gonna say we have a cheaper resources. This is not ethic, but we have very good talent and we have local VCs. You are here, and we have many. I'm not the English pronunciation. This one, girişim sermayesi yatırım fonları. So we have governmental incentives as well, and governmental supported funds. So there you can, as a start point, you can get benefit from those resources. Then you will look for foreigner VCs or resources. But as a start point, Turkey is a very good place.
So maybe before you answer to the question, I would like to be maybe slightly controversial now, and I understand it. One of the things we would like to do different in Saudi Arabia to what you did here is to be having a proper open ecosystem. We like to share learnings, and I think this is something that here in Turkey could improve potentially. I think that our inspiration is more Finland, where you have companies sharing their learnings for the benefit of everyone, rather than thinking, hey, I cannot share what I have been learning so far because you are my competitor. So maybe that's, from my understanding, something we like to do better.
I agree. Also, let me add one point. In Turkish culture, we have a saying, when you open a jewelry shop, there will be 2 more jewelry shops. So, like now, game startups maybe are in the same mode. When you have a startup, then we see 10 more startups in the same city, in the same university. I think sometimes the startups forgetting some critical issue. This is not an easy industry to penetrate. Maybe that is the highest competition in the world. No regulation barrier, no market entry barrier. Everyone in the world can do a game and enter into that industry. So very strong competition. That means the teams should be very powerful. And this multidisciplinary industry, you need super digital marketing, user acquisition. You need great product guys. Game designers should be amazing. At the same time, game should be working properly, which means development. Art should be great. Great doesn't mean amazing, looking good, but art should be perfect fit to the genre. So lots of things. That means you need a great team. I think some of the startups should merge, should unite to create better game companies. That's what I think for the Turkey ecosystem. So what do you see? Yeah, you can add.
I would like to add something. But also you must know that the market is changing. While you're developing your game, the target you have planned at the end, your end product, may not be a suitable product for the market at the end of the 2 years. So you got to know how to switch the paths you're walking while you're on the way. That's very, very important. And also, as I think, this is a long-term run. And when you're planning a long-term run, first you should check on your potential rivals. Maybe the old games they have been developed before, how they started it, how they planned it, how did they make the marketing, and what are they doing right now. Maybe you should guess their future plans as good as you can, so you can compete with them at the end of your development. Yeah. It is a very hard market to get in, but it is quite challenging and quite exciting. We are all happy to be here. I don't know, it's a kind of torture as well, but we like to take this torture happily.
So, last question: what is your what type of challenge you face while developing 2 PC games? I mean, what is the biggest challenge?
Our biggest challenge is, I'm prepared for this question, is human resources. Especially in Turkey, we're developing the game on Unreal Engine 5, and it is really hard to find good talent. It is not also about that someone having a talent, but also can they easily work with the team as well? Are they going to be friends, or are they going to have some problems with themselves? Because even they are talented, if they're not working good with the team, they cannot work with the team. And you cannot reach your goals. So there are lots of things, but our biggest challenge is, of course, human resources. I can add lots of stuff here, but this is a very limited time, so I don't want to talk too much, but human resources is my last answer.
Okay. Şeyhmus, anything to add as a last word?
Actually, this is a very big issue, but what I understand from my previous experiences is if you have a good culture, so like a magnet, you can attract very qualified candidates, possible teammates. But building a culture as early stage startup is really hard. So as a co-founders, first of all, we need to create a culture, then I guess people will come.
So David.
Presume maybe 3 thoughts here. First is something I tend to say to product managers or designers: you are not your audience. So think about who your audience is and make a game for that audience, not a game for yourself. Second, if you are an entrepreneur, you are not just creating a game, you are creating a company. So you need to make sure about you are looking after not just the product, but also the environment where the people work. And the third one might be something maybe slightly different, which is how you can think on your players first. I think that it's really important that you market test, that you have this early input into the game, because I think as you were mentioning before, market change in your way. So you need to be ready to be constant in changing, constantly pivoting because of changes in the audience, because changes on the market, because of opportunities you describe. So be agile.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we have passed just 5 minutes. If you have questions, I believe it's better to catch us just after the stage. Thank you for listening. Have a good day.